Hi everyone, it's Scott here. I'm back with another 7 movies that I'm recommending from the year 2010. I left off with an indie movie called Peter and Vandy, which didn't see the inside of theaters here in Chicago. And I was sort of debating on what the next film I wanted to talk about was. There were a couple different possibilities. Shutter Island by Martin Scorsese, 127 Hours by Danny Boyle. But actually there was a movie that I want to talk about a little bit more than that didn't actually see theaters except for maybe its premiere, and that is because it was an HBO movie. Normally I wouldn't include it, but I really like the film quite a bit, so I want to talk about it. It's called Temple Grandin, and it was directed by Mick Jackson, who is the director of LA Story, a Steve Martin comedy, and The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Temple Grandin is based on the true story of a woman named Temple Grandin who has autism, and because she's very high-functioning as far as mathematics goes, she was pursuing a way to kill cows more humanely, to corral them and kill them and use them, of course, for meat, as us human beings tend to do, in a more humane way and more orderly way that makes them suffer in a minimal fashion. So she developed this whole system that's being used now. She's played by Claire Danes in the movie, and what's really great about Claire Danes' performance in this movie is that after I saw this, I found it impossible to imagine her playing anyone else. You know, despite the fact that I'd seen her in My So-Called Life and Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of other different films over the years. This movie, just like her performance in this, just went beyond, anything that I've seen her in, to the point where it was just like, can she, I just can't picture her playing anyone else, speaking differently, because of course she speaks very differently in this movie than she has in any other picture. Because the character has autism, she is very sort of reluctant to have physical contact with people. It's a big fear of hers, which is something that she explains. But she knows that there can be sort of reassurance in being touched, and so what she invents, builds what she calls a squeeze machine that she can kind of crawl inside, and these wood panels will move in on either side of her and press against her to sort of calm her. This is something that she noticed helped cows, and so she built one for herself. It's just one of those details that's really, really interesting about the person. Anyway, really like the movie a lot, so I wanted to include it. Next, I'd like to talk about a movie which is very different from Temple Grandin. It's called Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I know a lot of you are familiar with Edgar Wright already and probably know this movie, but I want to include it here. It's really, really fun. Of course, Michael Cera is the main character. It's based on a graphic novel, a series of graphic novels, actually, about this guy who meets a girl who's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. And he, as part of his courtship, he is required to engage in hand-to-hand combat or something akin to that with her ex-boyfriends or people that she's previously dated, and that takes the form of many different kinds of combat. There's a whole bunch of really fun people in this movie. You've got Jason Schwartzman and Chris Evans and Brandon Routh and a few other cool people who play her exes, and plus there's a really great supporting cast. Macaulay Culkin's brother Kieran Culkin and Anna Kendrick, and it's a crazy loaded cast, really lots of fun, and it's just a high energy, really, really crazily edited, paced movie, lots of fun. Edgar Wright, he's a winner. So then, another big change of pace for the next one, a drama called Mother and Child. This is a movie that I talked about a couple years ago because it wasn't nominated for Oscars, and so I decided to do a video on movies that didn't get nominated for Oscars, or right around the time that the ceremony was happening. Mother and Child is a movie with 3 main characters. I want to say Naomi Harris is one of them, but I think it's actually the woman who plays the main character on Scandal, Kerry Washington. Boy, I really should have checked on that before I started making this video. That's what happens. I need to dash off these videos quickly because I don't have a lot of time to make them, so I forget to, research cast members. But it would be Kerry Washington and Naomi Watts and Annette Bening. And the 3 of them are mothers, or have been mothers, or will be mothers, depending on where they are in their storyline. But they're all interconnected with each other. It really doesn't, those connections don't really come together until the close of the picture. It's a really good movie. I liked it a lot when I saw it. It's played on cable a bunch of times, so whenever it's on, I try and watch a little bit of it. Some of the other people in this movie are Amy Brenneman and Jimmy Smits and David Morse. David Morse pops in it for a couple of scenes. It's directed by Rodrigo Garcia, who did a film called Things You Can Tell Just by Looking at Her, and another movie that David Morse was in called Passengers, Anne Hathaway. Boy, it's been a while since that movie came out. Anyway, he's done a lot of short films online, particularly a series called Blue with Julia Stiles, which I like quite a bit. And this is probably my favorite feature film by him. Oh, Nine Lives as well, I forgot. Nine Lives is a movie that I mentioned a couple of videos back. I think it was 2005. That's one of his as well. Next, I'd like to talk about Exit Through the Gift Shop, which is a documentary which was originally supposed to be put together by this French guy who came to live in the United States, but actually got taken over by the street artist named Banksy. Banksy was one of the graffiti artists, or street artists as they like to be called, perhaps, who encountered this guy who's basically filming a whole bunch of people putting up their stuff in the middle of the night without getting caught, trying not to get caught. But when he watched the guy's film, he realized this guy really isn't a filmmaker. He just sort of obsessively tapes everyone. So he took over the project and he encouraged this French guy to create street art of his own, which he did, and he took on the name Mr. Brainwash. So the whole documentary really is about that sort of transition and the switching of roles between that these two guys did. Really, really fun movie. Really, lots of crazy in a lot of ways, but yeah, liked it quite a bit. The really, really good movies that started coming out in the second half of the year really sort of asserted themselves around June and July. But in October, we had The Social Network, of course, which is, a big awards-nominated film that David Fincher did. Of course, being a longtime fan of David Fincher, I was eager to see it right away. And when I read about what the structure of the story was, I thought, ooh, I wasn't interested in this movie that much before, but now I really am, and it's one of his best movies. It's very, very rewatchable. I have put the DVD in and watched scenes and segments of it, dozens of times, just because it's a pleasure just to watch it and listen to the movie and not just, experience the story again. Of course, everybody's familiar with what it's about. It's about Zuckerberg, who created Facebook, Jesse Eisenberg, and a whole bunch of other really good people are in it. Armie Hammer has not had a lot of good luck lately with the roles that he's been cast in, but he's still great as the twins, and there's a lot of really good acting in this movie. Of course. A terrifically edited picture, and I love the score as well. Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, it's just a really, really very, very rewatchable picture. Toy Story 3 came out in the summer of 2010, and that was a movie that really provided some relief from the dreck that had come out so far during the summer. I remember skipping a whole bunch of movies because they looked terrible. And finally when Salt with Angelina Jolie came out, and I thought, gee, I'm really sick of staying away from movies. I think I'll go see this one. And actually fell asleep during Salt. So not a good sign. Toy Story 3, though, the best of the Toy Story movies. One of the very best movies that come out that year. I was really, really pleased by that movie. Very moving, very exciting. Loved it. It's directed by Lee Unkrich, who is probably going to make more, but I'm not really sure if he's done anything since then. I should check on that. And finally, the last movie I'd like to talk about was a movie that I saw in IMAX and was totally blown away by it, and that, of course, was Christopher Nolan's film Inception. A movie which has a really exciting concept, although not really all that believable, but still really exciting, and just the execution of that idea was fantastic. DiCaprio, of course, is the Nolan stand-in. He is the so-called director of the mission to implant a particular thought in the mind of their mark, their sort of con artists. But really it's a big metaphor for filmmaking. Cillian Murphy, who is their mark, he is the audience. He is the guy that they have to emotionally manipulate, which is what, a lot of films, the aim of a lot of films are. Make you happy, make you scared, make you sad, what have you. That's exactly the objective of what these guys are doing. And his producer is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and his production designer is Ellen Page, and his effects man is Tom Hardy, who changes his face, The studio executive is Ken Watanabe. The critic is Marion Cotillard. And of course, Cillian Murphy is their audience. So yeah, it's a nice big metaphor for filmmaking. And I just couldn't figure that out right away when I first saw it, but eventually it came to me, oh yeah, that's right, it's a whole filmmaking crew. That's what they're doing. They're putting on a show. Exciting movie, really exciting. I'm sure every single one of you has already seen it. If you haven't, please get on that. It's really, really cool. Yeah, that's it for 2010. The next videos I do will be on 2011. I hope you'll tune in for that when they pop up. Thanks very much for watching. Please leave me a comment if you want to suggest other 2010 movies or refute any of my choices, anything like that. It's certainly allowed. Also, I've got a Facebook page if you want to visit that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.